Do you do this?
Can you think of a time where you've had to overcome a difficult situation? We've all had times in our life that has shaped us into the person we are today. Anne Sullivan is the prime example of overcoming in the face of adversity. We almost attend school at some point in our life, and Anne Sullivan helped shape the education system into what it is today. After studying several documents about Anne Sullivan, I have obtained information about her life. Anne Sullivan has been a huge inspiration to the education world and in overcoming adversity. You're going to hear about Anne's early life, her education, and the impact she had on the education system and on Helen Keller. Let's first start by examining Anne Sullivan's early life. So her real name is Joanne Sullivan, but she's better known as Anne. She was born on April 14th, 1866 in a small village town in Massachusetts. Her parents are Alice and Thomas, which they had a pretty rough marriage throughout her whole childhood. She's the oldest of 3 siblings. However, she did have a couple older siblings that did pass away, and this was just the beginning of the tragic events that happened in her early childhood. So at about the age of 6 years old, she contracted a fever, and it was left untreated for a while, so she developed trachoma, which is a bacterial eye infection that left her practically blind. In 1874, her mother became really sick, and shortly after, she died of tuberculosis. Her siblings were sent away to live with relatives while her dad stayed back to work, and she decided she wanted to stay home with her dad to take care of the house and cook for her. And keep in mind, she was only about 7 to 9 at this point in her life. And then shortly after, he abandoned her. After that, she reconnected with her brother, and they both had health issues, so they went to an infirmary in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, and they were only there for a couple months before her brother passed away. After that, she was there for a while, and the conditions were awful, so she wanted to reconnect with her sister, but sadly, she never was able to meet her sister again. At the infirmary, she received an eye operation to try to improve her eyesight, but it was not successful. All that information was found from the biography of Anne Sullivan, published on August 2017 by Ellen Bailey. So after the events that happened in her life, she really wanted to get an education and turn her life around. So in the journal by Tricia, a language mashup published in 2018 states that after numerous attempts to fix her eyesight, she wanted to get her education. So she went to the Perkins School for the Blind. Upon her arrival, she was teased a lot and made fun of because she didn't know how to read or write. So she became really withdrawn and didn't really have any friends there, but pretty soon she realized that she needed to push really hard to learn these things, so that really pushed her to try to succeed. So pretty soon she gained a lot of knowledge and even started tutoring other students, and at that point she knew that teaching was going to be her calling. She became friends with a girl out there named Laura Bridgman, who was partially blind and deaf, and that's where she learned a lot of her sign language and a lot of things that would help her later in life when she met Helen Keller. So after she finished at the School for the Blind, Anne wanted to follow her dreams by using the tools that she learned at Perkins to help a blind and deaf child, Helen Keller. A professor at the Perkins School for the Blind was contacted about Helen Keller, a blind and deaf child, and they thought that Anne was the perfect candidate to help this girl out. So in the website Anne Sullivan, Perkins School for the Blind, written by an anonymous author on an unknown date, states that in 1886, Anne was contacted and went to Helen Keller's house to meet her for the first time. Helen Keller was blind and deaf for after the first 10 months of her life. She began by using the things that She learned with her friend Laura to help Helen Keller start to learn words. She really kept her on a strict schedule and tried to keep her learning as much as possible, but she realized with the special needs that Helen had that wasn't possible. So she had to take a new route. She first started by signing letters into her hand and then placing the object in her hand so she was able to understand what it was. After 6 months of this process, Helen was able to learn 575 words. This changed the special education system forever. Helen Keller is one of the biggest success stories known in education today. In conclusion, Anne Sullivan has had a very inspiring life. She's been a huge inspiration to the education world and in overcoming adversity. After examining her, we have learned about her early life, the impact she had on the education system, and the impact she had on Helen Keller. What experiences in your own life can you use to make an impact on the world?